Welcome to Ghost Carrier, our 15-part alternative history audio series about a world where America lost the Pacific War. This is the tale of a doomed aircraft carrier and its crew, stranded in the vast Pacific by a supernatural twist of fate. This story has been adapted from my book, Ghost Carrier. You can purchase the full version in paperback, Kindle, or audiobook from the links in this episode's description. I'm Robert Child, and Episode 7 will begin in a moment.
You know, it's really a privilege to be involved with a documentary about the USS Franklin. And the Franklin was something that I'd always been fascinated by. And then producer Joe Small and producer-director Rob Childs come to me and say, look, how about if you use your dulcet tones to tell the Franklin story? So as I began to look through the story, and as Rob and Joe kept sending me more and more material, this thing was peeling like an onion. I was seeing more and more and more of a really, really important story in naval history, and one which hadn't been told. So they had to throw a 2-inch heaving line on me to keep me from charging right down here to the studio and helping to put this together.
Captain Dale Dye narrates USS Franklin, Honor Restored. Available now on Amazon Prime.
Ghost Carrier, They Died to Fight Another Day. Written by Robert Child. Narrated by Kirk Winkler. USS Liscum Bay, Motion Picture Projection Room. Joe was released after several days of tests and evaluations, but he was reassigned to duty away from anything to do with the pilots or their safety. Theo had been true to his word, and he was escorting Joe down to the motion picture projection room and his first Dead Man's Club meeting. Joe didn't know what to expect, but at least now he would be in the company again of other guys who remembered. I'll introduce you. You'll probably know some of the guys already. Theo entered first through the cabin hatch. Men were standing around chatting in small groups. Many were smoking. Guys, I want to introduce a new member to the club. Everyone quieted down and turned. Seaman First Class Joe Rusk, drowned right here on Deck 2. Hey, I was on this deck, a lanky, pale, red-headed guy called out. You were there when the deck breached? Joe acknowledged with a nod and a sigh that he was. Then a man seated with his back to Joe said, I was on Deck 2 also, directing fire crews. The man stood up and turned around. Admiral Mullenix! A stunned Joe snapped to attention, holding a crisp salute with eyes locked forward. Rear Admiral Henry Mullenix, 51 years old with thinning hair, was an overachieving MIT and Naval Academy grad. His no-nonsense Midwestern demeanor endeared him to the men. Relax, sailor, there's no rank in this club. Yes, sir, Joe responded as he slowly brought his hand down. Where you from, son? Dayton, Ohio, sir. Dayton, I did some training at Wright Field. Those were some great times in a great town. Yes, sir. Welcome aboard, sailor. Glad to have you with us. The Admiral turned to one of the ranking officers and said, I guess we should get started. Men put out their cigarettes and found seats. Theo pointed to 2 chairs on the aisle. Joe grabbed the one on the end. Admiral Mullenix stepped to the front of the room and looked around at his men for a moment. Joe looked around the group and noticed all had bowed their heads. He caught the Admiral's eye, and Mullenix said, Joe, we always say a few words to the Almighty before we get started. Joe nodded, then quickly bowed as Mullenix continued. Now, this isn't exactly a prayer. It's more of a kind of blessing for us sorry sons of bitches who find ourselves here. Joe smiled. Dear Lord, help us to understand why we have continued to live when we have all rightly died. Comfort our loved ones left behind in the other world who have had to endure the grief of our passing. Give us the strength to put one foot in front of the other each day, and let us never, ever, ever forget who we truly are and where we really come from. Amen. Amen, the men responded in unison. Joe looked up and saw that Mullenix was momentarily choked up and struggling with his emotions. Okay, men, war report, and before I get started with our current situation here in the Central Pacific, I had my Chief of Staff pull some newsreels from last year. Now, I am not going to say much. I just want you guys to take a look at this. It's Midway. Charlie, roll the film. The projector beam lit up the front wall as the clatter of the film entering the gate filled the room. A round emblem against a blue background appeared with the words, Official United States Navy. Music began, but it was not that rousing music Joe was so used to in these patriotic newsreels. The voice began, 4 June 1942 was a black day for the United States Navy. We shall never forget the loss of our brave American sailors on the Yorktown, Enterprise, and Saratoga and their escort ships. President Wilkie offered comfort to a grieving nation with this message, My fellow Americans, our resolve will never waver, will never extinguish. We will fight the enemy on the beaches at California, at Oregon, and Washington State. Americans will never surrender our soil to the evil empire of Japan, so help us God. The room fell stone silent. Okay, Charlie, shut it off, Mullenix said over the whir of the projector. Men remained staring at the now blank motion picture screen where the images had flickered. 70 ships lost in the greatest naval disaster in the last 200 years. Saratoga, Enterprise, Yorktown, all at the bottom of the Pacific, the Admiral said grimly. Admiral, that can't be, a voice shouted from the back. We broke their code. We knew that bastard Yamamoto was coming. We sank 4 of their carriers, Akagi, Hiryu, Kaga, and Soryu. We sank none of their carriers, son. Midway was overrun. And another thing you should know. Pearl, the Hawaiian Islands, the Aleutians have all been lost. They're under Japanese control. Japan is now the dominant naval power in the Pacific. Jesus, Joe said as he swung his head down. And if that isn't bad enough, I've got more bad news. What was it, maybe a month ago we hit Tarawa? Do you guys remember what battle we were in before that? Guys looked at one another, puzzled. Admiral, we were commissioned in August. We weren't in battle before Tarawa, Joe offered. We only left Pearl, 3 weeks ago, guys? He said, looking around for nods of confirmation. I'm afraid not, Joe. We never made it to Pearl. We were engaged in the Battle of San Diego Harbor when the Japs attacked 16 September. The Liscum Bay was 12 miles down the coast on a training run when the first Jap bombers attacked. Bombers? What kind of bombers? Carrier launched. Our base at San Diego is gone. Our repair facility at Bremerton is destroyed. What I've been able to decipher from combing the after-action reports is that we put up quite a fight and didn't allow them too far inland. But what's left of our San Diego naval facility is now held by the Japanese. Men put their heads in their hands. My Chief of Staff has been very helpful in gathering information for me on this, but I've had to watch what I say with him. Theo spoke up. Why is that, sir? Can you believe the damn bastard made it? Lucky son of a bitch survived in our world. The one here was never part of our world. Lord have mercy. You can say that again, Theo, but I hope you guys realize what this means, what our situation is here in the Pacific. Guys looked again at one another for answers. We're cut off, trapped. The Japs control the entire west coast of the United States. I had to read our latest orders from Admiral Nimitz twice today so that I understood them correctly. This task force is now on a one-way mission, fellas, to Japan. Japan! Almost all the men said in unison. We're going to fire everything we got and wreak as much havoc and destruction on the Japanese mainland as we possibly can. That is, if we even make it that far. The Navy, I suspect, doesn't expect us back. Silence echoed as men retreated into private thoughts while Mullenix continued. Face it, we're already dead, fellas. As of right now, we're a goddamn ghost carrier on a suicide mission to certain destruction. 30 days or so from now, as sure as the sun rises in the east, we're gonna die all over again.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Ghost Carrier, our 15-part alternative history series. Join us next time for another installment. This story has been adapted from my book, Ghost Carrier. You can purchase the full version in paperback, Kindle, or audiobook from the links in this episode's description. And if you like what you hear, leave a review or a rating or just click the follow button. I'm Robert Child, and this has been Ghost Carrier only on Point of the Spear.
Music licensed from audioblocks.com. Point of the Spear is produced by RSC Media Group.